Bangalore City University, Governing Council member of 9 affiliated college of Bangalore City University, syndicate member during 2013 and 14 in Bangalore University, a member of academic council in 2002 to 2014 in Bangalore University. She also participated in national consultation on a revised accreditation framework workshop organized by NAC and served as NAC peer committee member and coordinator. She also served as a local inquiry committee member of Bangalore University and Bangalore City University. Coming to the research side, she presented various papers in national and international conferences and also published various papers. And presently, she is acting as a BOS member of BCU, Commerce and Management, and BOE chairperson also, and BOE member of PG and UG also. She is a president for Bangalore University First Grade College for Principals Association and president for Nitya Disha and vice president of Kavacha Foundation NGOs. I'm welcoming you, ma'am, for this technical session. And Dr. Usha Devi, ma'am, Associated Professor, MLA and First Grade College for Women, Bengaluru. She published various books and she published various papers in conferences also. I'm welcoming you also, ma'am. And over to you, ma'am. Parvati, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am, for the wonderful introduction. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Yeah. Can I share the window, whatever the presentation I have prepared?
Yes, ma'am. One second, I will make you as a admin
presenter. Yeah.
Yeah. Ma'am, you can present, ma'am.
ಇದನ್ನು ತಗೋಪ್ಪ ಇದು ಬರಬೇಕು ಇದು Ma'am, can you able to see the slides?
No, ma'am, no.
Go to entire your screen, a window income tax orientation.
Next to the hands, there is an arrow mark, ma'am. You can touch that arrow mark, means it will show you how to share. Ma'am, you are not audible, ma'am. You muted yourself. You unmute. Ma'am, you are not audible.
ಮೇಡಮ್ ನೀವೇ ಮಾಡಿ ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನೀವೇ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಲಿಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸರ್ ಒಂದು ನಿಮಿಷ
Okay.
ಇಲ್ಲಾಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲೇ ತಗೊಳ್ಳಿ ಸರ್
Ma'am, make me presenter, ma'am.
Yeah. You are audible, ma'am.
Yeah. Can you see the slides now?
Yes, ma'am. You are just opening PPT, I think.
Now I have opened it.
Yes, ma'am. Open it.
Okay. So can you
Click
able
on
to see the first slide?
No, ma'am. No. You are not yet opened.
Ma'am, it's already opened.
No, I'm not seeing your slides. Just I'm seeing your screen. That's all. That is.
Screen ಮಾತ್ರ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ.
You click on that income tax orientation 2222. Just open that one.
Here, ma'am.
Yeah, and you click on that, ma'am. Just open that. Then only the slides.
Can you able to see now?
No, ma'am. No screen.
just ask them to send it.
Ma'am, if it is possible, means you send it as Srihari sir. We will start to present, ma'am. You mail me, ma'am.
WhatsApp send it to WhatsApp.
ಅದು ಅವರಿಗೆ ಮೇಲ್ ಮಾಡಪ್ಪ ಹೋಗ್ಲಿ.
You mail it or WhatsApp me, Srihari sir.
Mail ID ಬೇಕಾ?
I made changes. That's the reason. ಇದನ್ನೇ ಕಳ್ಸಮ್ಮ. This only you share it. ಬರಲ್ವಾ ಈಗ?
ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಡಿ.
ಇದಾ?
ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್.
Dear participants, stay here only because of some technical issues. Can't able to start the session. Within few minutes, we will start.
ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ.
Few minutes, ma'am. Start to share my screen. Few minutes.
By the time you start sharing, let me start, ma'am. Shall I?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. I would like to welcome each one of you for the orientation of 5th semester BCom, jointly organized by Bangalore City University, Department of Commerce BCU, BCU TTCM, and SSMRV in association with various resource persons who have really given their heart and soul for the development of Department of Commerce. So it's a contribution of each and every one. Today, we are looking at the various sources and various subjects. When national education policy has been implemented, we discussed what do you mean by multidisciplinary approach. To be frank, our commerce, whatever the programs we are offering under BCom and various BCom specialization, we are extending the multidisciplinary approach. With this context, I would like to start with the income tax, the work which has been assigned by the SSMRV and other persons who believe that I'm going to justify the income tax 5th semester. Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
The major objective of learning income tax is to teach the students and expose the students to the various provision of Income Tax Act relating to computation of income. Especially we are teaching 5th semester and 6th semester with respect to only individual. We are not focusing on any other person. We are focusing only on the individual. So in this context, a student after learning 5th semester and 6th semester, he must able to understand 5 heads of income in which he can generate the income and how best he can make use of the income tax for saving his income also. So in this context, he must able to help self and also the family members and surrounding, he can able to teach the income tax. The income tax of 5th semester is divided into 5 units. Unit 1 speaks about the introduction to income tax, where we will be teaching this income tax for 8 hours. Briefly, you have to explain the history of income tax, and also we have to explain the legal framework, how this income tax has come into existence, because this is mainly focusing on the theory part. So students should understand when exactly the income tax started and we started implementing it. And you should also discuss about 1961 Income Tax Act and legal framework, types of taxes. In this, you have to discuss about the direct taxes and indirect taxes. Generally, we ask the meaning of direct tax and indirect tax, how it is applicable. And we should also discuss about the canons of taxation. On what basis the tax has been imposed on an individual is very, very important. So under the canons of taxation, you need to focus on equality, certainty, convenience, economy, simplicity, coordination, like various types of canons of taxation need to be discussed. And here, please try to focus. If the student are being asked, name the canons of taxation, they should answer 2 marks question. In case if they ask to write in detail canons of taxation, this may carry for section B. Apart from that, unit 1 will also count on very important definitions like assessment, assessment year, previous year, assessee, person, and try to please explain the students what is the difference between assessee and the taxpayer. Many times they were unable to understand every assessee need not be a taxpayer, but every taxpayer need to be an assessee, and how it will go with. And then you need to explain the person. Under the person, you are focusing more on the individual. That's what you need to tell for BCom students, because you have to give the meaning of person. And then income, and what do you mean by casual income, and aggregate of 5 heads of income, what we call it as a gross total income. Generally, in the 5th semester, we will be teaching only 2 heads. Other 3 heads of the income, we will be teaching them in the 6th semester. So hence, you should always advise the students that your 5th semester is a connect to 6th semester. They should not forget, like any other subject. They should not forget, because while teaching 6th semester, most of the concept what we are teaching now, again it will be used in a modified way. So you need to teach them gross total income and total income. And scheme of taxation. Scheme of taxation means what is the slab applicable for tax purpose for the individual and senior citizen, super senior citizen. This has to be taught. In a small way, you can teach the problem. However, in the unit 1, the problem is not focused on the especially tax liability part. So hence, you will be teaching them only scheme of taxation and how they will be calculating with the slab of income tax. And you need to give meaning and classification of capital and revenue, and capital and revenue expenditure, income, and the losses. Generally, you can expect 2 marks question. What do you mean by capital structure, capital expenditure, or capital revenue, or revenue expenditure, or revenue loss? If at all, if they ask for section B, they will ask difference between capital and revenue expenditure, capital and revenue income, capital and revenue loss. Like this, they might look for the various classification and differences. And if possible, give them a small problem and try to classify what is capital expenses and revenue expenses, what is capital revenue and revenue, and you should also ask them to know about the capital and revenue losses also, to classify by giving a small problems to them. Apart from that, you should also discuss about the income tax authorities. So there are various income tax authorities who are involved in assessing. You should also discuss about the powers and functions. This generally carries for section B. For section A, we generally give them the abbreviation like expand CBDT, Central Board of Direct Tax, like that. AO, what is assessing officer, what is expand the CIT, like that. You should give them about the commissioner, director of income tax. All these people, you have to discuss theory only, powers and functions, and how it will be implemented. So if at all, if they are asking the abbreviation, it is counted for 2 marks. If at all, if they are asking to classify the powers and function, generally it will be asked for section B. This is about the unit 1. So we can take up the questions later. If I am permitted, I would like to go for unit 2. Shall I continue unit 2?
Yes, madam.
Ma'am,
Yes.
I'll take the queries in the end. So let me explain all the 5 units and then I can take up the queries. So in the unit 2, it is about the exempted income, where we will be teaching only 4 hours. Okay, where you need to give an introduction and which are the exempted income under section 10. Okay, which is applicable only for individual assessee only. Okay, you have to focus. Some of the teachers, what they do, if at all, if they are considering the gratuity, leave salary, or they will take the pension, they will teach the problems also in this unit. Try to condense yourself to the theory part in unit 2, so that when you touch salary, you can able to go in detail. Try to cover up in this 4 hours all the theoretical part and make them feel more comfortable, because income tax is the subject which they learn from the 5th semester. All other subjects they would have learned from the basics, either from PUC or first BCom. This is the only income tax they learn only in the 5th and 6th semester. So we have to make them more comfortable in learning the taxation. So here you are restricting yourself to only individual assessee and try to teach them what is agriculture income. Under agriculture income, teach what is agriculture and non-agriculture income. Teach them the definition, and also scheme of partial integration also has to be taught, like how non-agriculture income can be considered as an agriculture income, like various types of non-agriculture income are there. What is the proportion of taxation? Since it is meant only theory, you can restrict only for theory. If you feel that the students are quite sharp enough, you can also teach them small problems which is related to scheme of partition of integration of agriculture income and non-agriculture income. And please remember, for the examination point, only theory is considered. In this, you can expect 2 marks question in the meaning of agriculture income, or they can ask non-agriculture income. And there might be a question even for section B to classify agriculture income and non-agriculture income. Try to explain the students the justification of agriculture and income and non-agriculture income. Example, I would like to say that agriculture income means in case if it is spontaneous growth of tree, why it is not considered as a agriculture income, that you need to explain them. Like that, you need to teach them the classification of agriculture and non-agriculture, but it is restricted to only theory. This is for 4 hours. Coming to the next unit, that is unit 3, it is with respect to residential status. You need to explain different types of residential status. Okay, you should make them feel comfortable, that is resident and non-resident, on what concept they are called as a resident and ordinary resident, resident but not ordinary resident, and non-resident. So you need to work problems also on this, and you have to teach them how to calculate the residential status. You have to teach them the basic condition and additional condition. Basic condition under section 6 subsection 1 has to be taught, and additional condition under section 6 subsection 6 on what is the basis for them to classify the resident and non-resident. And definitely there will be a problem which will be asked on determination of residential status. Okay, and residential status is again linked with the incidence of tax. So we are classifying the residential status into resident and ordinary resident, resident but not ordinary resident, non-resident. When you are asking them to calculate the gross total income or total income based on the income which has been generated either in India, Indian income, or foreign income. So here, incidence of tax problem has to be taught, which is generally focused for section C. So incidence of tax problem is focused on section C. Coming to the next unit, very big unit, whereas in the residential status and incidence of tax, we will be teaching 8 hours. When we are coming to the unit 4, it takes a major chunk of your hours, that is 24 hours is being taught in this income from salary. Here, you have to teach them in detail the meaning and definition of salary, what are the basis of charges of salary, what do you mean by advance salary. Try to teach the students that they can get a salary from more than one employer, and how arrears of salary are being taught, and allowances. Various types of allowances are there, like DNS allowance, city compensatory allowance, house rent allowance, like that, various marriage allowance. So any number of allowances can be given by employer to employee, and how treatment has to be given. And please focus on children education allowance and children hostel allowance in this, because we generally teach them the employer benefit to employee about the children education allowance and children hostel allowance, and generally we give even conveyance allowance, transport allowance. All these allowances has to be considered, and please try to explain the difference between allowances and perquisites. Okay, what are the perks and what are the different types of perquisites, and here you need to give an introduction to students about the specified employee, why they are called as a specified employee, and what are the different types of perquisites which will be chargeable under the specified SSC. This has to be taught to them, and you should also highlight that the employees can have a benefit of the allowances or perquisites of a particular category. Example, if perquisite is given in the name of an accommodation, they will generally not eligible for HRE. So you can also teach them comparative problem on allowances and perquisites with respect to accommodation, house rent allowance and perquisite. Under that, you can also teach them the accommodation, either rent-free accommodation, rent-free furnished accommodation, like that the perquisites can be taught. And next, you have to teach them provident fund. In detail, different types of provident fund has to be taught. 4 types of provident fund which we focus: statutory provident fund, recognized provident fund, unrecognized provident fund, public provident fund. And how do they classify? And where you have to teach them about the employer contribution, employee contribution, interest on employer contribution, interest on employee contribution. At the time of retirement, when this lump sum amount is received, how the treatment has to be given for the statutory or different types of provident fund. This has to be taught. Make sure that you will teach the problems on each areas, each category. because income from salary is majorly focusing on the problem. It's a problem-oriented unit. So you have to teach them and train them both for section B as well as for section C. Apart from the salary, what is that profit in lieu of salary means? When they get any voluntary retirement or compensation or retrenchment compensation, all these things has to be taught to the students, including some part of the problems has to be considered. And please don't forget to teach problems on gratuity. Gratuity covered under Gratuity Act, gratuity not covered under Gratuity Act has to be taught to the students. And you have to teach the category like government employee, how it is treated, non-government employee, how it is treated. So you have to teach the gratuity and commutation of pension. Actual pension which they receive is always chargeable to tax. But when an employee can claim the pension, so they can claim the exemption under the pension only when there is a commutation of pension. So you have to start with the meaning of commutation of pension, and then start with what is commutation, what is uncommutation, commuted, and what is the percentage of commutation, value of commutation. All these things you will be teaching them in the pension. And you have to look at the another part is encashment of earned leave. See, this you have to focus on encashment of earned leave, whether the employee is earning it during the service or at the time of retirement. Because irrespective of category, during the service, if there is any encashment of earned leave, it is always chargeable to tax. And how it is treated at the time of retirement for non-government and government, the problem has to be taught to them. And kindly focus on deduction under section 16. So deduction under section 16, you have to cover standard deduction, entertainment allowance, and also professional tax or employment tax. These three has to be considered under section 16. And please focus more on problems on computation of taxable income from salary. Here we are not focusing on tax liability. We are focusing only on computation of taxable income from salary, or you can call it as a net salary or taxable salary, where you can consider 2 questions of 15 marks. That is, section C is considered from problems on computation of taxable income from salary, which may include either the perquisite or provident fund, or you may also include the gratuity as a part of the problem or a pension. Please also teach the students that in case if the question is asked for section B, they may focus on gratuity or pension or encashment of leave salary, which can be asked for section B. So this is an elaborate chapter which takes 24 hours to teach students, and you have to make them feel more comfortable in this particular chapter, because this is where we are getting most of the students or most of the citizens are earning the income from salary. Coming to the last unit of this 5th semester, it is about the income from house property. This will be taught for 12 hours. And what is the basic charges of charging income from house property? Okay. Who is a owner? Who is a deemed owner has to be taught here. And you have to explain what is the exempted house property income. That means you need to teach the students about the let out property, deemed to be let out property, partly let out and partly self-occupied property, period let out and period self-occupied property. This kind of a different types of income from house property has to be taught to the students, and how the treatment has to be given. Here the focus has to be given more on the annual value, that is gross annual value, or you can call it as a net annual value, because here the question may be asked for calculating even for section B also. And Overall problem on income from house property, it can be asked for section C. 2 questions will come from income from house property for section C. Here, you should also explain the deduction from annual value under section 24. 2 major annual values will come, where whenever you are teaching the annual value, please don't forget to teach them the treatment of unrealized rent or loss due to vacancy. Whenever the house is vacant, how the treatment has to be given, and you should also teach them the unrealized rent in case rent is not realized. What are the measures an assessee has to take before he claims the unrealized rent? That has to be taught theoretical, as well as even the problems are also being considered on unrealized rent and vacancy. And coming to the deduction from annual value under section 24, 2 deductions are being considered here. One is standard deduction, the other one is interest on borrowed capital. Whenever you are teaching interest on borrowed capital, you have to teach them previous year interest and pre-construction period interest. Okay, this is where the students should be able to understand the problem of deduction, because if they can able to do annual value, compare it to salary, I must say that income from house property is quite easier. And it all depends on the teacher, how we make them feel comfortable. So here, when you are teaching them the deduction under section 24, you have to teach the standard deduction, and in case of self-occupied property, how standard deduction is counted, and in case of let out property and other classification, how this standard deduction is counted. This has to be taught to them. And apart from that, you should also teach interest on borrowed capital. You have a specific reason why interest on borrowed capital is restricted in case of self-occupied property. That also has to be explained to the students, and they should work the problem based on these deduction also. So you can expect in case of annual value, that is net annual value or gross annual value, section B question is asked, and in case of computation of taxable income from house property, you can expect section C, 2 questions can be expected. And as it has been given, the reference books, you can refer Vinod Sangania, B.V. Lal, Malhotra, Dinakar, like that. Good number of books are there, Dr. V. Rajesh, and many books are there with reference to income tax. And then coming to the pattern of examination, the pattern of examination is classified into section A, section B, section C. Under section A, student has to answer 5 questions where 7 questions will be given, which carries 2 marks each. That's for 10 marks. Okay, where you can expect questions like define assessee, define assessment year, what do you mean by previous year, how do you treat interest on borrowed capital, or there might be a small question to calculate on interest on borrowed capital, or you may also ask what is entertainment allowance, how entertainment allowance is treated. Such questions is expected in section A, where they will be giving you, students will be given 7 questions and they need to answer 5. Section B, it's an analytical question where there will be a both, either it can be a theory or it can be a problem oriented. They will be giving the 4 questions where students need to answer 3 out of that. Each carries 5 marks. So 15 marks. I can say here the classification of agriculture income. They may ask difference between capital and revenue expenditure, capital and revenue loss, or capital and revenue income, or they may ask you to classify agriculture income, or they may ask even to explain the basic condition and additional condition to classify the residential status. Coming to the problems, you can expect problem on gratuity, problem on leave salary, problems on perquisites, provident fund, like this. They might give you the small problems. Even residential status problems can also be counted here in section B. Under section C, they will be given the 4 questions where students need to answer 3 out of that. Okay, here you can expect the here they will be given 5 questions. Out of here they need to answer 3. In this, they will be given income from salary. 2 questions will be given. Exclusively problems will be given here. And 1 problem
Madam,
generally
sorry
on
for the
incident.
interruption. Madam,
Pardon,
from
sir?
Madam, section C, only 4 questions are given. Out of 4, only 3 should be written, ma'am.
Yeah. Yes, sir. And salary, earlier they used to give 2. Either in the salary, there will be a 2 question, or taxable income from house property, there will be a 2 question where students need to choose. And incidence of tax, 1 question will be given to the students to calculate gross total income or taxable income based on residential status of a assessee. This is about the section C, okay, where 4 questions are given and 3 need to be answered by the students. And coming to the pattern of the question, I have given based on the units: 2 marks question, 5 marks question, 15 marks question. Under introduction to income tax, you can expect more of a 2 marks question and 5 marks question, and 15 marks question is not expected here. Under exempted income, unit 2, you may expect 2 marks question, again 5 marks question. Here also 15 marks questions may or may not expected. Here, under residential status, the students may expect 2 marks, 5 marks as well as 15 marks. Here I am giving salary and house property a choice. It can be either 2 salary questions or 2 income from house property, where students may choose out of 4. I am giving here, the examiner might give either 2 questions to compute income from salary for 15 marks or income from house property 2, where 1 will not be given in the examination. It may be from salary or from house property. So whereas coming to the 2 marks and 5 marks, even under salary also, you may expect 2 marks question and also 5 marks question with respect to gratuity, pension, leave salary. Whereas income from house property, you may expect 2 marks question like what do you mean by annual value? What do you mean by interest on borrowed capital? Like the 2 marks question can be asked. 5 marks question may or may not be given. If at all, if they give you to calculate gross annual value or net annual value of more than 1 or more than 2 to 3 house property. For 5 marks, it may be expected. For 15 marks, more than 2 house property, the problems will be given. It may be on self-occupied property or let out property or the deemed to be let out property. Students should understand the meaning of all the 3. So this is about the income tax, which I have given only theoretical part, whereas Dr. Usha is going to explain about the skill development part by Madam Usha, Dr. Usha. Thank you very much. In case of any doubt, I am here. Either we can consider after skill development discussion, or otherwise the floor is open for a discussion. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. You are explained very well. Thank you so much, ma'am. I request Usha ma'am to talk about the skill development for this paper. Usha Devi ma'am.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. You are audible.
Good afternoon to all of you. Yesterday, I was instructed by the organizers that I should cover PST aspect tomorrow after auditing session. So I request all my teacher friends to attend the session tomorrow. Today, even I do not have PPT to share my experience with you. So sorry for the inconvenience. I will take up the session tomorrow. Okay, madam? Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you,
Yeah.
ma'am. Request Satish to give a vote of thanks. Satish, over to you.
Good afternoon, one and all. Uh, now, the floor is open for Q&A. Participants, if you have got any doubts related to the syllabus part or the computation or how the questions will be asked for the in the final examination, you can ask any questions. The resource person are there to clarify those. Dr. Parvati ma'am as well as Usha ma'am, they are going to clarify our doubts. Uh, I think no questions from the participants end. Madam, I think we can wind up this session by a small vote of thanks.
Sorry, sir. Sorry for the
Yeah,
interruption.
okay.
Okay. This is Mahalakshmi, Assistant Professor. First of all, very good afternoon to all of you. Ma'am, my question is to for Parvati ma'am. Is it compulsory for alternative tax regime? Can we expect a problem on alternative tax regime?
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Ma'am, it will not be, problems will be not asked on that. You can give theoretical part of it, ma'am. You can explain the students theory, and problem is asked on the direct tax with respect to only salary, ma'am.
Okay. Ma'am, is it okay if only existing tax regime? I can expect only problems on existing tax regime. We will just give a aspects regarding to alternative tax regime.
Many times it so happens when you explain alternate, students will get confused. So it all depends on you how your children are going to receive. Okay? So
Okay, ma'am.
make sure that you be more clear to the students. Many times when budget happens, that time only they'll come and ask the teachers, ma'am, should we take this lab or we have to go for the previous one? So when you are explaining about the assessment year and previous year, you explain them very clearly, and also make sure that the students will not refer any of their seniors' notes. Okay, that is one of the
Okay.
problem which we always find. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, madam. Good
Yes,
afternoon.
sir.
I just wanted to answer Mahalakshmi. Mahalakshmi, madam.
Yeah, sir. Yeah, sir.
Actually, what is required here, computation part. How to compute the income under different heads is more focus, not on the liability part. Actually, the problem doesn't arise on computation or calculation of liability. See, the question what you asked, whether you want to follow the alternative tax rates or the old regime or new regime, that arises only if you need to find out the liability on the total income. That question doesn't arise right now. As such, you just concentrate on the computation, how income is computed under salary or under house property. That is the main
Okay.
focus right now.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you for that.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, Parvati, madam.
Yeah, I would like to clarify one more thing. There is no question under the salary, there will be a loss, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome, madam. Welcome.
Ma'am, one more question, ma'am.
From income from house property, whether we need to do the problems on interest on borrowed capital, the pre-construction period problems, madam.
Yes, sir. You need to do it, sir. Then only they will understand the deduction under section 24 thoroughly. And the question is counted even for 15 marks also. You need to teach them. Actually, those are the only two deductions which are available under house property. You need to teach them both the pre-construction period and previous year interest also.
Hello, madam. There's one more question with related to house property only. That is with related to how to treat a DLOP, deemed to be let out property. As we know that, I think from this year we need to consider two self-occupied property. Normally, in previous years we used to consider only one house as SOP, but I think so from this year onwards we need to consider two houses as SOP, self-occupied property.
Sir, you give two exemptions, sir. If at all, if there is a 3 house deemed to be let out property will come into existence.
So from this year onwards, we have to consider it as two houses should be treated as SOP, right?
Yes, sir.
Sir,
Yes,
in
sir.
fact, it is from last year itself, not this year. The treatment is started last year only. Two self-occupied properties are exempted,
Exempted
and more
from
than
tax.
two, then you have to consider as deemed to be let out. And it is started in the last academic year itself.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Good
So, any other
afternoon, ma'am.
questions? Yeah.
Yes. I am Purnima from Noble Group of Institutions. I have a doubt in residential status chapter, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Actually, in that 7 authors textbook they have given, based on the income level also the residential status will be considered. Up to 15 lakhs something they have given. Will it be applicable or only we have to do based on the normal conditions like basic conditions and additional conditions?
Ma'am, as far as my knowledge is there, the residential status is calculated only based on basic condition and additional condition.
Yes, ma'am.
Please
Yes,
stick on to that. Stick on to that. And
Yeah.
many times so happens, income tax every year it keeps on changing. And
Correct,
when you are looking at the answers, please, you have to be more, focused on the basic concepts what we will be teaching to the students. So you have to consider basic condition and additional condition, ma'am, not the
Yes.
income. Income is not being considered.
Actually, I got to see that there are some categories like A, B, C, D, E they have given based on the income level that they have earned. Based on that also they have calculated some residential status. So I was just confused whether to teach that or the problems will come from that particular part too.
No. As of now, only it will be considered based on the basic and additional condition. Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, madam. Sorry to interrupt. Here, there is some
Really, sir.
modification in the second basic condition from this assessment year. But for the sake of problem, we can go as per the old pattern only. And theoretically, you can expand that point. What is the new clause that has been introduced to the exception, second basic condition? As you have said, like some income level, they are
Income
introduced.
level, yes, sir.
Yeah, it is only for theoretically, you just tell them, but the problems, old pattern only. And based on the basic conditions, A, B, or maybe additional conditions.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
But sir, if we are explaining theory, the students might get confused now, sir. If it is exceeding,
You can
15
just
lakhs,
tell
it is
them. You
theory.
can just tell them this is the new clause introduced, but problem in the examination will come as per old pattern. That's all. Okay, na madam, Parvati madam.
Sir. ಇವಾಗ ನಾನು ಏನು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡಿದೀನಿ ಅವರು ಎಕ್ಸಾಮಿನೇಷನ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ವ್ಯೂ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತ್ರ ಮಾಡಿದೀವಿ ಸರ್. ಇದು ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ ಕ್ಲಾರಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್ ಈಗ.
ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್, ಅದಕ್ಕೇನೆ.
Ma'am, because students will also refer to textbooks, alva. They will get to know all these things.
That's why. You should tell them. You tell them this is the clause introduced and close there itself.
Sure, sir. Sure. Thank you.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, will there be any problems on unrealized rent being recovered from the chapter income from house property? Unrealized rent being recovered. And can you please explain, sir?
Yeah, it may be there. A transaction might be there or may not be also. You have to explain theoretically. In case transaction comes, that should be treated.
Ma'am, it is better to teach the problem, ma'am. Teach them.
Yes. Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Madam, I think we can wind up.
Ha, ನೀವು ಹೆಂಗ್ ಅಂತೀರೋ ಹಂಗೆ sir.
Thank you, Vinay. Thank you, Venugopal sir, for clarifying our doubts. So
Welcome, sir. Welcome.
now we have come to the end of the session. You know, it is my privilege to give today's vote of thanks. Firstly, I thank our renowned resource person, Dr. Parvati ma'am, Principal VET College, and Dr. Usha Devi ma'am, Associate Professor, MLA College, for giving insight information of Income Tax 1. Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot, ma'am. I thank all the participants for their active participation in this orientation session. Thank you all. I thank our beloved principal, book term, BCU, for organizing this orientation program. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Venugopal sir, joining me.
Thank you.
Namaskar, madam. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Consolidated report will be sent to the respective mail IDs. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
ಸರ್
sir. Thank you,
ಸತೀಶ್
ma'am.
ಸರ್
Sir, really?
ಈಗ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಭಾಸ್ಕರ್ ಸರ್ದು ಸೆಷನ್ ಇರ್ತದೆ, ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಹಾಗೆ ಜಾಯಿನ್ ಆಗಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಡಿ ಅಷ್ಟೇ.
Okay, sir.
ಈಗ ಭಾಸ್ಕರ್ ಸರ್ದು ಸೆಷನ್ ಈಗಲೇ ಇದು ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ
Okay.
ಅದಕ್ಕೆಲ್ಲ ಜಾಯಿನ್ ಆಗಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಟ್ರಿ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ.
Fine. Okay, sir. So, immediately after this session, we will be having a Bhaskar sir session that is related to PSD. Please do join for that particular session, and we will be sharing you a link, Google link. So kindly join for that session. Thank you all.